ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः। ॐ भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। नमः श्रीशङ्करानन्द गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने सविलासमहामोह ग्राहग्रासैककर्मणे We have been looking at understanding Ishvara, Bhagavan, God. And as we said, this God in Vedanta is not a matter for belief. It is rather a matter for understanding as the truth of oneself. And we also saw how Ishvara is not an entity, an object that can be objectified. It is more of a being that is non-separate from you. When I say non-separate from oneself, it doesn't mean on the same plane as the body-mind-sense complex. The indweller of this body-mind-sense complex that cannot be objectified is the same as Ishvara, and this entire Jagat, the whole universe of names and forms, is a manifestation of this Satchidananda Atma along with Shakti. We saw that earlier, but it bears a repetition from this angle of looking at the universe. And when we look at the universe, we see Shakti, the presence of Shakti in the form of everything that is there. All names and forms are Shakti, and the intelligence, the knowledge is Ishvara. Therefore, we say the raw material and the maker are one. The effect is non-separate from the cause, like even the ornament is non-separate from gold or whatever substance it is made up of. This much we have seen. And also we saw that for the wise person, we saw this morning, that for the wise person, the absolute reality of oneself as free of this body, free of this mind, free of the senses. It's not that they are having an out-of-body experience, that is not the idea. But while living in this body, one is free. So that freedom comes from walking the I sense over from the ahankara, the ego that is attached or identified with the body-mind-sense complex, over to Brahman Ishvara. That is what we have to do. That is what the whole Vedanta teachings, all the books, all the Upanishads, everything that is their primary purpose. So for the person of self-knowledge, this transition, the walking over of the I from the limited, jaded, faded individual, the I notion, on to Sarvatma Bhava, everything is myself alone, has already been accomplished. But the body-mind-sense complex continues. It continues because it had already started and it has its own karmic trajectory. Thank God for that. Because if as soon as one knew I am Brahman and suddenly the life was gone, that would be, Vedanta would become very dangerous. Yes. Oh, I get it. God, finished. Already not too many people interested in Vedanta. And then if this were the case, nobody would come. And not only that, whoever would be teaching would be what? Knowledgeable or ignorant? Ignorant. Because as soon as you are knowledgeable, you are gone. So then only the ignorant people will be teaching. You have to see this whole thing. Yeah. There would be no teachers. No teachers, authentic teachers to talk of. And so for these reasons, the arrangement is such that once you gain this knowledge, the body-mind-sense complex continues. It continues. It's like it's like you have a newspaper. Let's say it's just the whole place is burned down and there's a newspaper and that's also burned down. But then you are able to read the headlines. It's burnt intact. You're able to read the headlines. 5 killed in a blaze, or whatever it is. The headlines you are able to read. Water shortage in these countries. Some fight there. Some government toppled here. All the headlines you are able to read. But if you try to pick up the newspaper and try to turn the page, all you will have is ash. In this way, the body-mind-sense complex continues. And the example, the ancient example is given is like the burnt rope. You can see the twists, but then it is not vyavahara yogya, meaning it is not fit for any kind of transaction because it is not, it is there just for appearance only. So too the body-mind-sense complex is there because the I has flown away to Brahman. The body is there, the mind is there, the senses are there, and the jnani, the person of knowledge, has this ability, just like Ishvara, to be in both the planes at once. What are the 2 planes? The absolute, called the Paramarthikam Sat, the absolute reality, and then the empirical reality, which also has a name, Vyavaharikam Sat. The empirical reality and the absolute reality, they are able to manage. They are able to manage. Every person, the wise person is able to manage. All the teachings tell us this. They are in both the planes. This is part of Ishvara's dance because this is what Ishvara also does. Ishvara does not get fooled by the Jagat. Ishvara does not come under the spell of the Maya, does not come under the spell of the 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. No. Ishvara is there, and then similarly, this knowledge makes one Ishvara-esque. And in that sense, both the realities are nicely managed, nicely traversed. And this is because these 2 realities, the absolute and the empirical, are not on a par. They are not equal because there cannot be 2 realities. Real means there is only one, Sat. Abadhitam Sat. That which is real cannot be negated, and that is Sat Chit Ananda, my nature, as that which is the source of all existence, Sat, and it's a conscious entity. I am a conscious being, Chit, and then I never come to an end, Ananda. This cannot be negated. We can try, but no matter how hard we try, it cannot be negated because it is based on our own daily desire and daily longing and daily experience. And what is that longing? To be one with everything, to be one with everybody. This is the longing. And so this cannot be negated, whereas the empirical reality of names and forms, being changing and finite, can be constantly negated. And in fact, this empirical reality of names, forms and transactions, that what we call the everyday reality, is dependent upon Sat Chit Ananda. If there is no Ishvara, no Satchidananda, then there is no Vyavahara, no transaction is possible. Nothing is possible. Nothing can move, nothing can shake. We saw this in the discussion of the various orders of reality. We have already seen this. So one reality is more real than the other. This we have to see. And one reality, which is the absolute, is what is real. The empirical is the everyday life. And so therefore, the wise person does not take the everyday empirical reality too seriously. This is a very important skill to hone in, and that's why we have so many things for preparation. For preparation of this knowledge, all these yamas, niyama, everything, so many things are there. So many values, so many attitudes. The Bhagavad Gita is full of them. The Upanishads are full of them. Preparation for this knowledge is 9/10 of the knowledge is preparation. 1/10 is the knowledge. So the preparation is important because of self-ignorance, we take everything all too personally and seriously. We have seen how we do that. Nice t-shirt. What happens? Thank you, thank you. Nobody said thank you because we know better now. So, so therefore, this is the misidentification. And for the misidentification to be removed, we need a lot of preparation. And that preparation is the sadhana for gaining this knowledge, the everyday preparation, the everyday reminder through nama japa and through various other sadhanas, inward facing sadhanas like meditation called antaranga sadhanani, and then bahiranga sadhana like karma yoga, outward facing sadhanas. These are all very important ways of life that are conducive to gaining this knowledge. We have to work very, very, very hard here. And what are we doing? What are we preparing for? And what is this preparation? What does this preparation entail? And what is its phala, its result? If we were to look at that generally speaking, then we find a very important result of this sadhana, because when we first come into this knowledge, we don't see two orders of reality, namely the absolute, Satchidananda, and the everyday. We have three orders of reality. Oh, where is this third order come from? One's own subjectivity. This is the Rahu and the Ketu in the mind, the eclipse of subjectivity. This is the third order. This alone shines. I have been targeted, I have been victimized, I am an idiot, nobody likes me. Well, for that matter, I also don't like anybody. And these are the things. And nobody understands me, and I cannot succeed at anything. I work very hard, but the neighbor gets the promotion. All this is the whole litany of complaints. Is the subjective reality, even that has a name, pratibhasikam. Pratibhasika means swakale satyavat bhati. In its own time, it just shines as though it is real. But prabodhe sati, when I have the understanding, then it is deemed as unreal. So these three orders of reality make it very difficult. The third order of reality especially makes my own reality. And what is the difference between the empirical reality and my own reality? The empirical reality can be summarized as it is there, therefore I see it. The tree is there, therefore I see it. Not only I see it, but you see it, and somebody else coming to the ashram will also see it. The subjective personal reality is what? I see it, therefore it must be there. Completely opposite. If you make the empirical reality do a headstand, this is the subjective reality. The subjective reality, as long as it reigns and rages in the mind, then not only this knowledge, but even living a sane life in the everyday becomes impossible. So the subjectivity is reduced as a result of the lifestyle that is recommended to gain this knowledge, to enjoy oneself as this knowledge. The subjectivity has to be totally reduced. And when the subjectivity is reduced, then I am able to be in Ishvara's world. There's only one world. I'm not having my own parallel reality, and I'm not seceding from Ishvara's reality and making my own parallel reality where I'm going to be there and I'm going to have this and I'm going to do this, do that. All these things are gone. And when that parallel reality, when I'm no longer living in this bubble of my own emotions and letting these emotions, these samskaras, means previous impressions, early childhood impressions, past life impressions, and they are both positive and not very positive. So, what is samskara in this context? Samskar or the other. Okay, now that we are trying to overcome from the past. So, these the samskaras, the memories, all this are the ingredients of the subjective reality, and which has to be dropped. First it is collected and then it is dropped. It has to be dropped. In the wake of the understanding, forget Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, even that far we don't have to go, but in the wake of the understanding that this is an impediment to seeing things properly. I am just a bunch of misunderstanding of the universe. I just misunderstand everything and everybody all the time. That means there is some problem not with the universe but with myself. The finger that was moving everywhere, which ended up above, blaming the stars, blaming the people, blaming the trees, blaming the wind, blaming the rain if it is there, blaming the non-rain because it is not there. Every single way one blames. Blaming everybody, if you were not in this world, I would be much happier. Then finally the finger has to come here and look at what is there without blame. When there is no longer blaming of the external or blaming of oneself internally, that means the spiritual journey has started. This is what we have to take very, very seriously. So the dropping of the third order and the unnecessary order of reality, which is the subjective reality, that what does it entail? It entails standing firmly in the empirical reality. You have to come over and stand firmly. From Pratibhasika, you can't jump straight to Paramarthika. Not possible. The infrastructure is not readied. So what do I have to do? I have to shed the skin of the Pratibhasika, the subjective reality, and stand in the Vyavaharika world, in the everyday world, like a snake that has sloughed off the skin. And it is very scared, it's very vulnerable because it's all very soft. Similarly, the jiva is also very vulnerable because the Pratibhasika had protected oneself, not really protected, but is, so to speak, one feels that I'm protected from seeing the truth of myself. I'm protected because I can easily get angry if somebody says this. I'm a bunch of offenses and defenses and reactions, and this is how I led the last life and the life before that and many, many lives before that. Why to change now? This is the thinking. But that vulnerability which comes as a result of dropping this veil of a private reality, which is full of mistakes, is rewarded. The vulnerability is rewarded by seeing everything as Ishvara. And then I'm firmly in Ishvara's world, and from there I can take the flight to moksha, seeing everything as one. First, that's why it is in two steps. First, we see everything as Bhagavan, everything as Ishvara, and then we see everything as what? An extension of oneself. Everything we see as an extension of oneself, and then this is this is exactly why this two-step or a three-step step-by-step process has been very nicely delineated. It is important not to skip the steps, because if I am mired in my own personal reality, I will not be able to appreciate the Jagat at all, much less appreciate it as a manifestation of God. I will not be able to do that at all. And so therefore, I have to change. I have to drop the subjective reality, live in the Jagat and call this Jagat, see the Jagat as Ishvara. Second step, see everything as Ishvara. And then with further teaching and with further assimilation of the Mahavakya, the sentences in the Upanishads that reveal the truth of this jiva as non-separate from the whole, the more they are assimilated, the more I am able to see the truth of myself. And we cannot bypass this. There is no bypassing these realities. And then when we look at this even more, then we find that this reality, the everyday reality, the empirical reality, is non-separate from Ishvara. We see this as not only the manifestation of Ishvara, but as non-separate from Ishvara. That which is Ishvara. Everything is, and that isness belongs to Ishvara. If you write Ishvara in English, what are the first two letters? Is. You see, yeah. Even in English it works. Yeah. Is. What is Ishvara. And then my attitude towards what is has to be reverential, because there is no other way of going about this. There is absolutely no way of going about other way, because I have to see this. The attitude has to be one of Shraddha, reverence and devotion. And therefore, yesterday we talked of two values. One is appreciation of this order as Ishvara, the Jagat as Ishvara, and the second one is acceptance. Appreciation and acceptance. In these two areas I have to grow. I have to build the muscles in these two areas. Appreciation is very difficult. Appreciation is okay if it is chocolate cake, no problem, I will appreciate. I can write a poem on it, no problem. But then, if it is a difficult challenge, somebody says something, it keeps rankling in the head, I don't know how to drop it. But they have said many nice things also, but they said one thing which just boggles the mind. Why did they say this? How did they say this? Why did they say this? Go ask them, that's all, because we don't know why they said it. No, I don't want to go ask them. That's why I will search for a Swami and ask the Swami, why did they say this? How did they say this? And so, like this, it keeps on just getting stuck in the mind. Why did this happen? How did this happen? Because we have a pratibhasika attack. The pratibhasika attacks periodically. If this transition is not made, I get stuck in it and I feel like I have grown, I'm growing, this is very nice. And suddenly there is an attack. And so I have to be very, very non-judgmental about my own growth. In fact, not only non-judgmental, but also compassionate. The compassion that I seek to show to the entire world has to also be directed within. And so then, when the subjectivity is dropped and the ingredients of the subjectivity is dropped, then I learn to live in this common universe which is inhabited by so many other people. I learn to live objectively. Objectively means I recognize my own reactivity and I convert my reactivity into response. That is to see that if somebody said something, like in the previous example, which hurt me or which caused me some distress, I recognize that just like I have a background which makes me say things, the other person also has a background. Don't go trying to see what is their background. That kind of psychoanalysis, let's leave to the psychologists that they choose to go to. Okay? That's none of our business. Just to know that there is a background, there is some samskara, there is some pain, there is some reactivity, there is some sorrow, there is a block. That's all we need to know. Just like I have a background, they also have a background. And so then you immediately put yourself in their shoes and see that this could have very well been me. You can tell this to yourself. This could have very well been me. I was simply saying this about them. This could have very well been myself alone. How did this happen? Because there is a background. And when I understand I have a background, they have a background, then I can say, if I want to say something, I can. Sometimes I can be big enough to let it go, and sometimes I can be, if I want to say something, it will come from a place of objectivity, not subjectivity. Because the background also is Ishvara. This is all this discussion is on the samashti level. Samashti means the collective level. And then we also have, a homework at the individual level. And then we will go back to the text and finish it off, because there are two main topics that are left, and that can be done very easily. So this is, so from the standpoint of the individual, the one who is desirous of making this transition from inhabiting this body and thinking it to be real, inhabiting this mind and staying there, stuck in the emotions, stuck in the thoughts, stuck in the reactivity. If I want to make the transition and the I has to be repatriated with its own nature, which is what? Sat Chit Ananda, then if I want to make this transition, then there is a clue that is given in this whole chapter that we have been studying. And what is that? Like the theatre lamp, there is in this, obtaining in this very body, mind, sense complex, there is this unchanging, unmoving light of consciousness, we can call it. It is called the light of consciousness because it reveals. It's called a light because it reveals. It reveals my knowledge, it reveals also my ignorance. And that is what brings us to Vedanta, because I know that I don't know. And when I know that I don't know, there is nothing I don't know. You see, it's very interesting. Yeah. It's in a way one is all-knowing, sarvagya. I know everything in general because I know what I know and I know what I don't know. What I know plus what I don't know is equal to all. Therefore, I am all-knowing. Yeah. This is very nice logic. Yes. So, I know, and then this is what the Atma is. It reveals everything, including the ignorance. Whatever is there, nothing can hide from the Atma. You can't hide anything from the Atma. Everything it reveals, and so therefore In this revelatory capacity, it is called light, because what other thing reveals? Light reveals. So we compare it to light. So this consciousness is there as awareness obtaining in the individual body-mind-sense complex. How many consciousnesses are there? 8 billion, that's only human beings. And then we have to count all the animals. No. The I in you is the I in me, the I in he, the I in she, the I in the animals, the I in the plants, in everything. Just all that is there is this consciousness alone. And not to say that this consciousness has not fragmented itself into small splinters to enter into each body-mind-sense complex in the creation. No. It is still whole, all-pervasive, unbroken, and it is as though manifesting as this body-mind-sense complex. But then there is a, what is that? There is a connection. There is a beautiful connection. There is that inner space between the actor, the one who is going about one's day doing all kinds of things, and this consciousness. And the Upanishad takes this very, very seriously, as we see in the stories, both in the Kathopanishad and in the Mundakopanishad. In the Kathopanishad, there is the story of two people. Oh, two people. What did they do? Ritam pibantau, they are drinking something. Yeah, what are they drinking? Oh, this doesn't sound good. Yeah. Where did they go? Guham pravishtav, they have entered a cave and they are drinking there. Two are drinking. What are they drinking? Karma. That's what? That's the ritam. Ritam means karma phala. Avashyam bhavitvat. So they are drinking a cocktail, karma cocktail of papa and punya. That's what they are drinking. Yes. A mixture of good karma and bad karma, and they sip this. And then what happens? When they sip this, only the sad karma, the bad karma comes. And then, by the logic of intermittent reinforcement, little bit sweet taste is there in the middle, and it makes them addicted to this drink. Everybody becomes a karma phala holic. This is what happens. This is the jiva. And the other one, that is also drinking. No, it looked as though it was drinking, but it is not drinking at all. One is the chaya tapau, brahmavido vadanti. It is just a play of light and shadows. Only one is drinking, but the other one is hanging out with this one. Also gets a bad reputation of karta bhokta. That is the reputation, because this is what it is. And then, so this, the Brahmavid means the knowers of Brahman, Brahmavidaha, the knowers of Brahman, plural here, vadanti, they say, don't go by this is just an apparent reality. So the jiva is addicted to the karma phala, but what about the witness? Sakshi is not addicted to anything. Like the theater lamp doesn't start swaying when the dance music plays. The theater lamp does not say, I also need a special stage, bring it here, I also want to dance. No, it is stationary. Sthirasthayi sakshi tatha. The text will say, 16th verse, I think, sthirasthayi. It is in one place. It is always in one place. It does not move. It is there, unmoving. And similarly, the sakshi does not participate in the emotions, does not participate in the drama. Why? Sakshi is Rama. Yeah. In the same heart, Rama and drama are together. Drama has to be delineated. Rama stays, drama goes. Then again, in the Mundakopanishad, we have the famous story of the two birds. One bird is busy flying back and forth from branch to branch and then eating berries. And the other bird, what is it doing? Simply watching without eating. Here too, One is the Jiva bird, the other one is the Ishvara bird. Which is the Jiva bird? The one that is flying around, hoarding the berries, keeping on wanting more and more berries. Berries are also karma phala here. The one that is addicted to the results of action and keeping on doing this, that, or the other all the time, identifying as the doer, and the other one is satisfied, contented in its own glory, living, abiding in its own glory, does not need to do anything, does not need to go anywhere. Its function is to simply shine the light and reveal this restless one. And so too, in every being, these two birds are there. Jiva bird, Ishvara bird. And then one who is drinking the karma phala and the one who is abstaining from drinking. This way, in this way, the stories purposely have a split so that we can see this in our own daily experience. We see this split. Sometimes it is easy to be in the Sakshi witness mode. Most of the time, it is not. Most of the time, I am like the bird, restless, flapping the wings around and going all over the place. Now, the teaching is to identify more and more with what? The Ishvara bird and with the one who is not interested in karma phala. How to do that and how to come back to the text and see how it might give us some tips how to do that. We will see in the last satsang tomorrow morning. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you very much.
Om Namah Shivaya. So tonight being the last evening as part of this 1 week